Yeah, as ever, we should be on YouTube just a little bit in the past when anyone sees it.
Okay, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Policy and Finance Committee meeting of Beverley Town Council. I would like to comment that although this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube via Zoom, there are some special considerations that I would like to pass over to the acting town clerk to confirm. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. For anybody that may be watching this, the government extended the Coronavirus Act, but didn't include the section that allowed councils like ours to continue making decisions remotely. Only decisions made in face-to-face meetings will be lawfully recorded. However, we sought advice from Ernlicher and East Riding of Yorkshire Council, and they advised that we could delegate powers to the clerk. So therefore, on the 12th of April, full council resolved to do this. Any matters that are discussed at this meeting will be classed as recommendations rather than resolutions, because all councillors can do is recommend, not resolve, make a lawful resolution. I am then delegated through that power approved on the 12th of April to action to make delegated decisions. However, I will be using the recommendations as my precise guide for making my decisions to forward the work of the town council during this still awkward time. But I'm sure we will all be up to it. And any recommendations the councillors make will be what I most likely resolve to carry out.
Thank you, Matt. Can I receive apologies for absence, please?
Of Councillors Thomas Dell and Councillor Chloe Hopkins.
Could I confirm, therefore, that we are quorate with the current members attending?
Yes, we are.
Thank you for that confirmation. Declarations. To record declarations of interest by any member of the council in respect of the agenda items listed below, members declaring interest should identify the agenda item and type of interest being declared. Are there any declarations of interest? No, thank you. 3B, to note dispensations given to any member of the council in respect of the agenda items below. Are there any dispensations? No, thank you. We move on to agenda item number 4. To note the minutes of the Policy and Finance Committee meeting held on Monday, the 19th of April, 2021, which were previously circulated, approved and signed at the Mayor-making Annual Council meeting of Tuesday, the 4th of May, 2021. And those minutes are, of course, available on our website. Agenda item number 5, to review the current account payments made between the 1st of April and the 30th of April, 2021. Does any member have any comments with regard to these payments? The current account payments, that is. No, I see no hands. I would like to just confirm.
Sorry.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Jack.
Just a quick one, just regarding a notice that we've in fact had to buy £300 worth of stamps. So just reflecting back to the hullabaloo we had at the time over the number of stamps that have been purchased when in fact it was a very wise decision and of a good use of money. I just wanted to note the fact that we were now buying stamps again, so it wasn't it wasn't a frivolous purchase at the time, and in fact they logged it about right, didn't they, and saved us quite a bit of money. Right, I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jack. They were actually made on the credit card statement, so so you've jumped ahead of us, which is absolutely fantastic. I love the way we can be thinking in advance and clearing things up. Councillor Healy.
Just a question really on some of these payments. Beverley Male Voice Choir, £995. What was that?
That was a grant.
That was a grant, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I would just like the acting town clerk to comment on the payment to H. Watson for £79.56, please.
Yeah, just if anyone had any questions regarding that, whilst H. Watson is currently not in work, that's based on travel from the previous year that was submitted at the end of the financial year and then added on and then paid in this payment. So it's actually based on travel from previous whilst she was in work. So it isn't anything that's happened subsequent to that.
I understand this was also a payment claim as part of the emergency coronavirus office requirements that we had to put in place when we first went into lockdown back in March last year. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was transporting office equipment, computers, etc., to other officers who live in other far off parts of the county.
Thank you. I'd like to commend the clerk for what she did. She acted very quickly, and also commend our officers for coming up to speed so quickly with regard to working on Zoom and at length and on VPNs, which they hadn't done before. Very impressive, and thank you very much indeed for that action. Can we, we'll move to the credit card payments and then take them both together. Sorry, Councillor Healy.
I've got another one. Just by information really, and so that we can be completely transparent with anybody who might be watching. Helping Hands Children Litter Pickers, Hoops. What can you enlighten us as to what that is?
Yes, that's the Beverley Wombles applied for a grant, but rather than give them the money, the town council agreed to use the community tidy fund that we had acquired externally, which was then to help the wider community. We've purchased actual equipment for them. The only difference being that because we've purchased and gifted it, we can't claim the VAT back on that. But because it's such a minor amount, the grants committee felt it was worthwhile just purchasing the equipment for the Beverley Wombles with that money that we have been successful in a grant in receiving to help the wider community with litter picking endeavours.
What's a hoops?
They are the hoops that you would put a black bin liner on as you carry it around, so you've not got a bin liner flapping around.
Okay, thanks, sir. Thank you, man.
It holds the bin liner open so that you can just pop the litter straight into the bin bag. I think the mayor actually made a presentation to the Wombles last week, which was quite fun. Thank you. Anything else? I think it's really important that we are entirely transparent with regard to the payments that we make. I have no other comments to make with regard to the current account payments. Councillor Jack has already highlighted the sensible purchase of postage stamps, which I understand are mainly used for communications with our allotment holders, many of whom don't actually have email addresses. So it's impossible to send some of these people an email address. So we pop it in the post for them. Yeah, we do as well, Madam Chair. We do find that even those with email addresses, the most direct way to definitely make sure we've got a communication to people is through the post. And as Councillor Jack said, we did use quite a lot last year, and we ended up with about 13 second-class stamps left, and they were purchased before the price went up. So it did actually, well, it was an investment, and we only purchased more when we knew that we needed more for the coming year. Absolutely, and forward thinking is always to be praised. So thank you very much. If we could just go through the credit card statement, and if you could just clarify what each of those payments are made alongside the stamps, acting town clerk, please. Yep, the Bulldog Guard, that's the virus guard on our computer system. That's an annual 3-year security fee. Google Storage are the old Google email addresses. I'm still seeking advice to whether we can close those now we've moved on to Office 365. That's only £1.59 a month. Zoom is the annual subscription for our Zoom. Hello, that's how we're here. And My Post Shop is the stamps. And again, Google Mail. One is for
we've got 2 different Google Mail email accounts, and as I say, I'm just trying to sort out whether or not we can cancel those minor payments now that we're onto the new system. But I didn't want to rush into it, so I didn't want us to lose anything.
Thank you very much for that. Can I therefore have a proposer and a seconder to recommend that these are paid? So proposed Councillor Jack, seconded Councillor Horsley. Thank you very much indeed. Can we move on to item number 6, the internal audit update? I'll hand this straight over to you, Acting Town Clerk, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, we had our end of year internal audit with Safia from Internal Audit Yorkshire last Tuesday. All I'm reporting today is the schedule of actions that are going to happen, because Council have had this email, but so the public are aware. The first draft has come to me, and there's just a couple of things I'm going to forward to Safia just to clarify 1 or 2 points. The final version will be circulated to councillors middle of next week by Wednesday. Any questions councillors have from that, if they could email me by the end of Friday. So I'm just admitting Councillor Tucker into the room. If they could let me know by next Friday, I will then forward those to Safia, who will provide written responses. The following, I think it's the following Tuesday, councillors will meet with her and officers online, where she'll go through the report with councillors. At that point, it can become a public document, because it will be in the pack for the next full council meeting, which is the 7th of June. At that meeting, councillors will vote on approval of the report, on approval of the AGAR, and approval of the schedule for the public's right to inspect our accounts. So I've emailed councillors with that timetable. It's quite tight, but it keeps us focused, and it means by the 7th of June, we will have made the final decisions on those documents. And as I say, the Wednesday before that will be the day that the agenda is published, and the document will be available to the public at that point.
Thank you for that clarification, Acting Town Clerk. Thank you to you and the staff for all your hard work with regard to this internal audit. It has been tight time-wise, and I am confident that we will be able to, when we meet together, be 100% confident in our decision-making with regard to our AGAR. Councillor Horsley.
Yes, I think it's important to get clear to anybody who may be listening that this rather complex procedure gives no opportunity whatsoever for covering anything up. What it does is to allow things to be clarified, and any errors which we have made can be put right during those brief days, so that the 2 sides are, as far as possible, talking about exactly the same thing.
Thank you, Councillor Horsley. Councillor Healy.
Thank you. Can you also clarify, I think we've got a presentation, have we not? I've got my diary at 6 p.m. on the 26th of May.
Yes.
Am I correct with that?
Yes, that's not a public meeting. It's just a meeting online, remotely, with councillors, officers and Safia, where she can explain to councillors her findings, and then answer any of the questions they may raise on the evening, so councillors can be confident in understanding the document. So councillors are aware as well, this week myself and the other officers will be working on the draft actual AGAR response as well. So all the information will be in the AGAR, proposed AGAR response, the end of year internal audit, and the end of year accounts will be in the agenda pack for the next full council.
I'll just conclude by thanking Matt and Libby and Carol for the work that they've done on the 32-point improvement plan that we've already had sight on, and say how much that is appreciated, and that Audit is a process of continual improvement, and that's what we strive to do. And where improvements are highlighted, this council and the staff I know are absolutely committed to driving that forward and to making those improvements. And I'm sure that this will become clear on the 26th when we've had an opportunity to speak to the internal auditor as well as councillors. So I just want to thank you all for the hard work that you've put into that, because it is a long job. It is a long journey. It is a process of continual improvement, and thank you for helping us get towards that improvement as we go forward. Thank you.
Councillor Tucker, can I welcome you to the meeting as well? Councillor Tucker is substituting for Councillor Tom Astell. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. A question for Matt, really. Am I right in thinking, Matt, that over half of those things which were suggested we improve have already been done, that they were reasonably straightforward and have been achieved pretty quickly? And have you got any further with the rest of them?
Yeah, a lot of them were actions that officers could carry out to improve. The different committee meetings have certain items from that those recommendations to be viewed. For example, the next agenda item on this meeting is that. However, the majority of recommendations are linked to this committee, but the majority of those recommendations that are linked to this committee don't need decisions making. There are things that will be implemented as we go throughout the year into the ongoing management of finances, the practices we use, etc., and the purpose for setting up the 2 working groups to look at 2 different aspects of it that we set up at mayor making. So some of the things will be a continuous development over the coming year, whereas some of them, as we'll see in the next agenda item, we'll be able to make a resolution hopefully tonight, and then that resolves that issue. Because councillors also have to remember that the recommendations, the auditor is doing the proper thing to raise some things that they may feel that we need to look at and address. It doesn't mean we have to definitely agree with that recommendation, or there may be another recommendation we can think of that will be as effective in our circumstances. So they are just recommendations, but we need to look at them all seriously, to consider them and see which way is best for our council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. So we will move on to item number 7. Internal audit recommendations to consider and resolve actions to positively address the following recommendations made as part of the interim internal audit. 7A, management of mayoral fundraising money. Matt, perhaps you could explain the background of this recommendation.
Yes, traditionally when the mayor has had their charities or the organisations they support throughout the year, their good deeds, their good causes. Thank you. I was struggling with the word, and the good causes for the year. The money raised at any events for those good causes has come into the town council. We've kept a separate bank account, and then at the end of the year, that money is being distributed to the mayor's causes. However, there's various different advice as to where we should go with this. One advice is, because the money isn't the town council's and it isn't taxpayers' money, we're looking after somebody else's money. We're technically potentially holding it in some sort of trust, and therefore we should maybe have a separate charitable trust constituted and managed as a small charity. Another way is to take the money, have the money in, have it run through all our accounts, but it's income, but it isn't either, because it's not something we're spending, we're then still giving the money. A third way, which we've looked at, and I saw advice from Erlicker on this and discussed this with the internal auditor this when she was in last week. A third way is that the town council, whilst helping to raise funds for good causes, doesn't keep the money. So if a mayor is running a charity dance for a specific good cause, and all the raffle money is going to that charity or that good cause, the town council don't take the money. The money is actually given physically to that good cause. They bank it. We as an organisation don't hold any of the money. Councillor Johnson as mayor this year, a little bit like Councillor Jack did in his mayoral year, hasn't specified specific named organisations or charities. Every event that she organises or is involved with will raise money for a specific organisation, as Councillor Jack did. So the two main ways that we can go that councils have to decide is, do we still take in all the money, but by doing so, we would be best to set up a charity, an independent trust to manage this money. You can't compel officers to set this up, but officers are also sort of involved with it. And you also have to fulfill certain elements of charitable law and obligations, which we currently don't have to fulfill. The other suggestion is that, as I said, the many funds raised go directly to that organisation, so they manage all the money. We don't actually store or manage any of the money. So it's up to councillors to decide which route. As an officer recommendation, we think the setting up an independent charitable trust is a lot of work and will involve a lot more work ongoing that maybe isn't needed when you look at the amounts we do actually raise, and that it may be more prudent to work with each organisation that they actually handle and bank the money themselves. That's our suggestion, but it's up to councillors to decide.
Does anybody have any comments, please? Councillor Jack.
I think that's absolute sense, Matt's suggestion, because when we were involved with the Lions, we've had to set up a charitable, the Lions, you had to set up a charitable trust for Beverley Westwood Lions as such and whatever. And it is just adding another layer of administration and various legal requirements that you've got to hold to. So if these bodies that we're raising money for could take the cash away, I think that's the simplest and sensible fashion to go forward.
Councillor Horsley.
Can I suggest that we go forward on that basis for this year, and we will then be able to see if there are any catches and whether we need to change our mind as to exactly how to work.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Can I make a recommendation then that all fundraising raised by the mayor will go directly to the charity for which the money is being raised, without the town council holding it or banking it?
Can I say good cause?
Good cause,
They're
yeah.
they're not always charities, although they're always with charitable intent.
Good, thank you. So all fundraising raised by the mayor will go directly to the good cause for which the money is being raised, without the town council holding it or banking it. Do I have a seconder for that proposal or recommendation? Sorry, thank you, Councillor Horsley. Are we all agreed on that? We can, of course, change it if we need to going forward. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I will clarify, of course, that anything involving the mayor will still go through the civic office, but the office will not be touching the money. Thank you. Can we move on to 7B, please? Management of town council debit and credit cards. Matt.
Yeah, we as an organisation only have two. We have one credit card and one debit card. They're locked up at the moment. I can't remember which is which, but one is in the name of Beverley Town Council. The other is in the name of the clerk. The advice, one of the recommendations, speaking to Safia, is that they need to align. And again, there's two approaches. One approach is that the cards are in officer names, and there's maybe more than one card, because there may be more than one officer who's entitled to spend money. The other is that both are just put into the name of Beverley Town Council. When we look at our organisation, we've got a very small staff force. If you're a bigger organisation with several officers who have different budget lines and different capabilities to spend, then it is practical to have different cards with limited spending amounts in different officers' names. That might not be relevant to us because we're so small. In terms of security in names, if you don't know the name on the card, but you know the PIN number, you can still withdraw money or make payments. With contactless, without even knowing the PIN number, you can make a contactless payment of up to £45. And the only times we're using it is because we've eliminated hard petty cash. The only times we're using it that way is to purchase items that we require. So, for example, at the moment, we're not purchasing big, huge boxes of paper because we're not always in the office to receive it. We're getting a ream at a time as we need to from a shop. We're using contactless. So in terms of the size of our organisation, my question is, do councillors feel that we need to have more credit cards or more debit cards in individual people's names? Or do we get them both balanced in the name of the town council and we continue with the same practices? As you've seen through the payments you've had today, you see all the credit card payments, you see all the debit payments through the account. 2 councillors come in every month to sign all the documents still, even though a lot of the payments are made electronically. So we do have checks and balances in place, but councillors need to officially decide which way they want to go. As it was within the recommendation discussions with the auditor, do you want to look at more credit cards with individual officers' names, or are you satisfied that our security and our checks and balances are satisfactory enough so we don't have to do that and just balance them both to the name of the town council?
Does anybody have any thoughts on this? Which would you prepare? I would be more than happy to take the acting town clerk's recommendation that going forward, both the debit card and the credit card are in the name of Beverley Town Council rather than in the name of an individual officer. Councillor Healy.
Yes, I would concur with that also. I think that, as we've demonstrated tonight, we do have fairly rigorous checks and balances on the credit card, and we review them at the policy and finance meetings. I think that's better than having individual officers' names. Individual officers could, leave the organisation or whatever. They could be, not around, as we've currently got a situation with that. To me, it seems to make a lot more sense to have them in the name of the town council and to continue to implement the rigorous checking that we do. And I think that if that's the acting town clerk's recommendation, I would certainly support that, and indeed yours, Chair, as Chair of this committee.
Thank you. Any other comments? Can we take a vote on that? So the proposal is to adopt the acting town clerk's recommendation that our credit and debit card are going forward in the name of Beverley Town Council, seconded by Councillor Healy. Can I just take the vote, please? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you. 7C, electronic bank payment approvals. To review the electronic bank payment approval system. Over to you again, acting town clerk. You're working really hard this evening.
As some of you will remember, earlier last year and the beginning of this year, you were coming in to sign checks because we need to sort out our electronic banking system, which we have now done. Again, through conversations with the internal auditor, and again, it's recommendations because it's good practice for councils to discuss these things and make resolutions on a regular basis going forwards. The current system is that payments, as I said earlier, all the documents are signed by 2 councillors and an officer. We have more rigorous systems in place now regarding purchase orders, etc., following the interim audit, and all payments come to full council. The actual practical process of making those payments, no one officer can upload them to the bank and approve them. The finance officer uploads the payments to the online banking system. When they are ready, the app for the bank pings my phone to tell me that approval is needed. I will then sit down with the documents to cross-reference to make sure what is in the account is correct and approve the payments. The internal auditor suggested that councillors may want to consider, in the same way that there are 3 signatories to a cheque, it would need 3 people to approve those electronic payments as a potential way forwards for checks and balances. I spoke to Alan Barker at Earnlicker regarding this, and his suggestion is that it could be done that way, but the actual checks and balances we already have in place are quite rigorous. And unlike some councils, this committee meets every 6 weeks. Some councils only meet quarterly looking at finance, etc. We meet very regularly, and those minutes are all then approved and ratified at full council. The other concern that he raised, or suggestion he raised, is that if you're reliant on 3 people in total to go on an electronic system to make a payment, what if one of those people isn't available? What if someone's technology fails? You could end up not paying something on time, which could include staff salaries. And if you don't pay staff salaries on time, you're in breach of contract. If you don't pay other people on time, it can, we want to keep good relationships with all the businesses that we do business with. So again, it's for council to decide. Are councillors satisfied that our current procedures, with all the checks and balances on paperwork, and then one officer uploading the payments and then another officer making the payments, are satisfactory, rather than having to get 2 other councillors also involved in that process, which, whilst gives an even stronger check and balance, could create some administrative lag and create some issues. There's pros and cons on both sides. At the moment, we feel that the current system, with councillors checking documents quite rigorously, very rigorously, and the improved systems that we put in place, means that as it's happening at the moment is satisfactory in terms of our council. But again, it's up to councillors to decide.
Thank you for that very comprehensive description of what happens. Personally, I think it would be very burdensome to for councillors to have to come in to approve too. But Councillor Horsley.
Yes. It seems to me that the majority of these payments are pre-approved and regular payments. And that the suggestion that you'll go for 3 signatories after already having gone through that process is indeed unduly burdensome for such a small council, particularly a small number of staff. There is a bit of an argument in the case of those payments which don't meet those criteria, but there are very few such payments. I think on balance, it makes best sense to use exactly the same procedure throughout.
If I could add to that, Madam Chair, following Councillor Horsley, anything that's over £500 has to go through committee for approval anyway. So and a lot of one-off payments are either very small or very big. So either way, they're going to be ongoing practical costs that officers are empowered to and have the ability to purchase. And the larger things would have to go through a minuted system anyway before we can even process them.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other comments? So my proposal would be that we maintain the status quo. Would I have a seconder for that? Yeah, Councillor Horsby, Councillor Jack, thank you very much. Can we just take a vote on that, just for absolute surety? Thank you very much. Yeah, that's carried. Thank you. Can we move on to agenda item number 8, please, to discuss our proposed CCLA account. Again, I'm going to pass over to the acting town clerk just to summarise.
Yeah, as it says in the agenda, councillors, the full council on the I might have slightly wrong, the 11th of the 1st, actually the 1st of the 11th. So some of our systems are American, some of them aren't, so we're getting, but it's either way, the town council did previously resolve to invest up to £400,000 with CCLA, and that this committee be delegated to do so. However, it was felt that in the initial absence of the town clerk, who had responsibility for that, to just take a hold on that in terms of the practical side of making a payment. However, now that the town clerk has been absent for some time sadly due to illness, and I've been asked to step in as acting clerk, but deputy, it's to review that. I've downloaded all the documents that would be needed to make the payment. They're not onerous. I would just need to go around councillors getting signatories, etc., for the appropriate people, and I may have to seek advice from CCLA themselves if it's an issue that the clerk still has to be the signed signatory. If the clerk still has to do that, but it's any decision made now would be in effect for 6 months. So if it takes a month to get that sorted, it means making a decisive decision as to how to move this forwards as soon as possible.
Councillor Horsley.
Right. The reason that we went for not more than 400,000 was that we felt that the figure was over 350,000 and not more than 400,000. Does the acting clerk see any particular reason to go for a particular sum?
Not particularly. I mean, the actual term in the resolution was up to £400,000. I think that may be based on the fact that councils were considering the amount that's already set aside and earmarked for potential purchase of property, which is £350,000, with the idea of that being the money that would be invested, because it has over several years been accrued with the hope of purchasing offices. In case anyone who's watching this is not aware, the town council themselves don't own the offices that we're in, and then that would mean that money is getting a return above the amount it's receiving now and has an added level of security.
Thank you, Councillor Healy.
Well, a question then, and then I'll expand on it. Matt, can you just confirm which of the funds? Because there was the property fund was one, and then there was the general fund as well, I think. Is it the general fund that we're recommending that this money is placed with?
Yes, I think it is. If you just hold with me, I think councils felt that the property fund, given current circumstances, was a tiny bit more of a risk.
Yeah.
Easy access, Chair.
Yeah.
Councillor Estelle.
Easy access.
Yes, it was the easy access because we felt that if we did find a property, then we would need to make sure that that money was readily available. And we are still obviously hoping that we will be able to buy a property. Now, we do have £350,000 in allocated reserves, which is ring fenced for the purchase of a property. So my recommendation would be that £350,000 goes into a CCLA account. Councillor Healy, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think I just really want to make the point generally as to why this has arisen, that this council did inherit reserves higher than we were comfortable with, and we have discussed this from the very early stages of this council becoming into office, and we absolutely feel that this money should be put to good use for the community of Beverley, and that the good stewardship should be acted upon by finding a good solution for this. Now, this council has looked at various options. We would like to acquire a community hub for the benefit of the community. And we have looked at a number of different options over the last couple of years, and at this point haven't yet found the right one. We were considering in January of last year the purchase of St Nicholas's School, which was a vision that we all shared as a council. We thought that had very good potential, and we could have spent our reserves on that. The building was around about £500,000. We did commission some work to vision what it would look like, to imagine what it would look like, to plan it out, and that also included a detailed survey. And what we found was a building erected in 1911 was in serious disrepair. And we felt that it was also pointed out as well that it would have cost about £2 million to do what we wanted to do with it. And this council faced a choice. It could have spent its £500,000 on buying a building that was falling down, and then borrowed a further £2 million from a public works loan, for example, and mortgage this town and this council for the next 2 or 3 decades. This council was urged to do that, but decided in the end that the prudent solution would be not to spend Beverley taxpayers' money on such an enterprise. Regretful was that we couldn't go ahead with the purchase of Nicholas's school. Since then, we haven't yet found an appropriate investment, an appropriate building, but I think we are hopeful that that will happen. The world has changed post-COVID, and East Riding of Yorkshire Council is working now in an agile way, in looking at ways in which it can deploy its staff in different ways, and its requirement for buildings and space is going to be different in the future. So therefore, I think it is important that we are really clear with the public that this council is prudent. It has invested, it has taken good stewardship. It is not going to be frivolous. It is not going to throw money away on vanity projects that are not going to work. In the meantime, that money needs to have a safe and secure investment. We have been looking at this now for a few months, and it is appropriate that this money is invested. Matt is the acting clerk and has all the powers and responsibilities of the clerk. So the absence of unfortunate sickness, absence of the previous clerk, which ought not to be an impediment to having this investment placed. This investment is there, it's still there for the town council. I certainly hope that over the next 2 years we can make that investment. But we're not going to be forced into making an investment on something that's frivolous, and we will be accountable to the public for such a decision in the end. But keeping it in a safe place, such as CCLA, and we've had a presentation on this from them, I think is the right thing to do. In terms of the sum, I would certainly support in proposal for £350,000 to be invested. Thank you, Chair. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Councillor Healy. I think that was very important that the objectives of this council are stated clearly. There's just one other thing I would like to mention. I don't know if Matt was going to mention this, but the other significant amount of money that we have in general reserves is £200,000, which is basically the contingency to ensure that this council can continue to function. That should be between 3 and 12 months of reserves. So that does mean that this council at the moment does have £350,000 ring fenced for a building, plus £200,000 in its general reserves. This year, there are only unallocated reserves of £56,000. This is all documented within our budget, but it does mean that we are running quite a tight ship with regard to the objectives of this council and what we intend to do with the money, which now we are coming out of lockdown, we hope will be seen around the town as we achieve what we want to achieve. Acting Town Clerk.
Yeah, I just want to qualify that I've just checked, and he's definitely the deposit account that the council decided upon.
Thank you. So my recommendation was £350,000 to go into the deposit account, seconded by Councillor Healy. So that is the recommendation of this council. Could I take a vote on that, please? Thank you. That is carried. So if you could move on that recommendation, please, Acting Town Clerk, would be most grateful. The time is now 7:18 p.m. and we have come to the end of our business for this evening. So thank you, councillors, for attending this meeting, and I will bring it to a close. Thank you.